Hi all, welcome to the Marquee Match for the 12th of May. Apologies for this being up on a Monday. This would usually have been up on, say, the Saturday, but just been super busy with work and being ill as well. I'm still sounding a little bit scratchy, but hopefully you still will find this really useful. If you can smash the like as well, some sub to the channel if you're new. Follow me on Twitter at GZLegend. All the links are down below for playlists on the channel and social media links. As always, lots of games to cover. Hopefully you find useful. Let's jump into the video. Brøndby Copenhagen is my first shout. I quite fancy this in all honesty. Good players to kind of invest in are the golds within the league. So there's 4 golds at the moment in the form of Hansen, Jorgensen, Van de Vaart and Wirtz. Hansen and Jorgensen you can get for 600 and the 2 golds, Wirtz is 350 and Van de Vaart can vary from 400 to 900 I've noticed. But 3 to 5k for cost, 1 player from both teams, 11 from the league, 4 rares, 5 Danish players. You could also cover the nationality perspective as well if you wanted to cover that possible. But 6 out of 10 for likelihood in my opinion. A decent reward could be like a silver players pack or even push towards a jumbo gold pack depending what they give as a requirement. But I think because this has been before they might not opt for this, but it is a big game in Denmark nonetheless. Leipzig versus Bayern, we've had quite a few Bundesliga routes lately and my personal opinion was that this route shouldn't in theory happen despite being the top 2 in the Bundesliga. And with both in the Champions League and first and second I think practically signed, sealed and delivered, it might not 100% happen, but we've still got to cover it nonetheless. But 1 player from both teams, 11 from the league, 4 rares, 5 nations, 80 overall rating, 8 to 10k cost, 6 to 8k reward and a 5 out of 10 for likelihood. Sound players to buy are Kimmich, Bernat, then Orban, Keita, Forsberg, the CAM version of Forsberg, and then kind of look at 80 to 82 players like Campbell, Modeste are all sound shouts, and Papadopoulos. Then Roma Juventus is the top 2. This has a lot of bearing potential in the title. If Roma were to win, the title is still up in the air, which kind of makes it very interesting. 80 overall rating, I highly doubt they'll push it to 81. That would kind of be overkill for a league like the Calcio A. Well, 1 from both teams, 11 from the league, 4 rares, 5 Italian players. You could also cover the option of nationalities as well. 8 to 10k cost, 6 to 8k reward. I think a gold players pack or even a premium gold players pack as a reward. 5 out of 10 for likelihood. I'm in 2 minds about it because they seem to be having a moment where they're not picking Italian routes that are standing out as if they're holding out for something. This could be this week with 2 standout games. Good players to invest in are like Strootman, Immobile, Rugani, Morante, Berardi, Lulic. There's lots of players within the league that are smart to invest in. Bordeaux Marseille is a very big game. It's like one of the mini classicos in France, but for me I've got 78 overall rating just now. I can easily since I can bump up to like 79 or 80 rated, it's not a problem whatsoever. I've just kind of relied on a low end of it because I don't want to throw in, because I think my biggest problem is I don't have too many French players in certain positions. That's kind of what I'm focusing on a little bit, but while also covering a nations requirement. But 1 from both teams, 11 from the league, 4 rares, 5 nations, with maybe even an emphasis on French players. 78 I've got as the lowest, but I would say it should be 79 or 80 rated most realistically. 6 to 10k cost and a decent reward as well. Fiorentina Lazio is the more likely of the 2 games, mainly because it is like a big derby in Italy. While the top 2 in Italy are playing, this is kind of the derby as it were. This is the more what should be deemed the marquee game. But 1 from both teams, 11 from the league, 4 rares, 5 nations, 80 overall rating, 100 chem, 8 to 10k cost, 6 to 8k reward and 7 out of 10 for likelihood. Smart players to buy are Gomez, Lulic, Murillo, Rugani. Sportiello is a good shout for a high rated player within either team. Immobile as well is another good shout. Strootman as well, as I've said before. Medel as well, depending if you wanted to kind of ease the midfield options, and Callahan too. DC United versus Philadelphia Union is like the I-95 derby. It's like one of the few derbies that seem to stand out in America for what I gather. But it's 1 from both teams, 11 from the league, 4 rares, 5 nations, 73 overall rating, 5 to 8k cost, 4 to 6k reward and a 6 out of 10 for likelihood. In terms of smart investing, look at the 75 golds, where it be the rares and non-rares. You've got Bradley Wright Phillips. You can also look at the 76s like Kliesen, good DC United player in Bill Hamid, Van Dam, Chiman, they're sound shouts as well. You can look at the Atlanta players as well, and Minnesota United. Look at the players that aren't affected by a league SBC as well within, which is Atlanta and Minnesota. Both of these teams have decent enough rated players to kind of cover your back and ease your costs. Spurs Manchester United is an interesting game because Spurs, in theory, can't really win the title. They could still win the title, it's going to take a miracle, but Manchester United are still fighting for the top 4, and well, this game isn't really the ultimate standout. It is still a top kind of like 4 clash almost, as it were, but 1 from both teams, 11 from the Premier League, 4 rares, 5 nations, 8 to 1 overall rating, 100 chem, 8 to 12k cost, 6 to 8k reward, and a 6 out of 10 for likelihood. I don't think it's going to happen. Spurs players I would say are smart to invest in are like Dembele and Kudu, Son. They're kind of your sensible options, and Vorm as well. Then Manchester United players like Fellaini, Rashford, Ashley Young, Lingard, Jones, Romero, Darmian and Blind. Chelsea Watford, London derby, but in terms of this I don't see it personally happening because we've just had Chelsea featuring in the marquee matchup with Middlesbrough. However, with Chelsea and Watford, you'd expect 1 point from both teams, 11 from the league, 4 rares, 5 nations, 81 overall rating, 8 to 12k cost, 6 to 8k reward and a 6 out of 10 for a likelihood. Smart players from Chelsea are Alonso, as in Marcus Alonso, and like Moses as well, good handy thing with him being a right wing back. Then from a Watford perspective you can look at Decour, Kaka, Pantilimon, Niang, Brahmi. There's plenty of players within Watford. Chelsea lack a little, and then in terms of the league you can look at like Navas, Rondon, Welbeck, Schmeichel. There's tons to kind of cover your back for decent ratings. Then Hamilton versus Motherwell is the Lanarkshire derby, and it is a very big game because both teams are fighting in the relegation playoff spot within the league how it now works. And my feeling is that because it's such a big game for both clubs to kind of preserve their Scottish Premiership status, this game has a lot of bearing with only a couple games left in the league to determine who will stay up in the league. So my feeling is 1 point from both teams, 11 from the league, 3 rares as a minimum. It might push it to 4. 5 Scottish players, I would say at least, might even make it like 6 or 7. Try and make a heavier emphasis on this. 3 to 5k cost, 3 to 4k reward and a 7 out of 10 likelihood. I think this would be the, out of all the smaller games, this is kind of the route that I quite fancy. Rangers Hearts, similar build in terms of a team. You'd have 1 player from both Rangers and Hearts. Good players to kind of Rangers. Clinton Howell is the highest rated player I believe still in the team now, because Kranjar's 75 rated card is like pretty expensive, and it's only really I think it's 70 rated is his card now, so not as high effective in that instance. Hearts players, there's quite a few bronzes within the league like Oshinawa. The highest rated player is Perry Kitchen, who's quite a decent rating if they do an overall rating perspective. But Rangers and Hearts is kind of like a battle for top 4, but Rangers have, I think, sealed 3rd now for what I gather, but Hearts are only just fighting for pride. As I said, 11 from the league, but I don't fancy it. It's a 4 out of 10. There is bigger games within the league I feel this week. Then Aberdeen Celtic, this is this battle of the top 2. It's just kind of like bragging rights for the last game of like between the big 2 of the division. I would say personally I don't see this route happening because of the Hamilton Motherwell is the biggest game in the league by a mile this weekend, but still Aberdeen versus Celtic, both will want to do well for their respective teams, and Celtic are still fighting on 2 fronts with the Scottish Cup final in a few weeks time, and Celtic want to kind of finish the domestic season on an unbeaten platform, so this has a bearing of potentially being a route. But 1 from both teams, 11 from the league, 3 rares, 5 Scottish. Good Celtic player to buy is Griffiths, Savichenko, Toure. They're smarter options. Aberdeen like Considine and Reynolds. Bruges Anderlecht, big game in Belgium. 1 from both teams, 11 from the league, 4 rares, 5 nations, 74 overall rating, 6 to 8k cost, 4 to 6k reward and a 5 out of 10 for likelihood. Personally the best way to go for about this is look at the goals within the league, so like Ryan Engels. He's quite cheap to be honest, he's like 350, 400. Najar, Pina, Desevi, Naranjo. I've kind of tried to cover him back as well in case to go with like 3 players all told, so I've got like 2 Bruges and 1 Anderlecht. so I've covered that potential base as well, so keep that in mind. But the golds are relatively cheap if they were to throw this in, so it is kind of a good option, and both teams are fighting for the title, and it is a big game in Belgium, so it is quite smart. And as I said, 74-75 rating is not really that hard in the league to do. There is plenty of gold within the league. It's just really a left back you're kind of lacking in for a gold. So Boca Juniors versus River Plate is the last route of the week. This is the kind of route where you would probably need like 3 players all told. So maybe like 2 Boca or 2 River Plate and then 1 from another team. It's kind of that option. At the moment I've got 4 Boca Junior players which I can easily tweak and change. It's not a problem. The right mid I just threw in, and I totally slipped up where I realised that I had another centre mid that was same rating and different nationality, and same for the right mid. But still, it could easily emphasise on Argentine players and not focus on the Primera division. There is ways around that. 76 overall rating is a minimum, I would imagine. I might push it 77, 78, as I said, if they focus on Argentine players as a requirement. 68k cost, 384k reward. It wouldn't be the best reward, I'm afraid, but 7 out of 10 for likelihood. I really fancy it despite us having it before, especially as it is a big game in Argentina. Hopefully find this useful. Let me know in the comments down below what you're going for. Smash the like, sub to the channel for new, follow me on Twitter, G is Legend, and I will catch you all later.